The text message from Danny felt like a slap across my face. Can't make it tonight, babe. Work emergency. Right. Because investment bankers have so many emergencies at 7 p.m. on a Friday. I'm Sophia, and I was about to learn just how deep betrayal can cut. He's not coming again? My mother's disapproving voice carried across our family's expansive dining room. This is the third time this month, Sophia. I don't understand why you waste your time with that boy. I gripped my phone tighter, forcing a smile. He's busy, Mom. The market's been volatile lately. The market's always volatile, my cousin Livia chimed in, not bothering to look up from her laptop. But family dinner is family dinner. The aroma of Mom's signature lasagna filled the air, but my appetite had vanished. I'd spent the last 3 years defending Danny to my family, especially to Mom, who never thought he was good enough. The irony was, I was starting to wonder if she might be right. Speaking of business, Dad cleared his throat. Livia, how are those quarterly reports coming along? The board meeting's next week. Almost done, Uncle James. Just need to double-check some numbers with the new accounting software. Something in her tone made me look up. Livia had been handling our family business's finances for the past year, and lately, things felt off. Maybe it was the way she always changed the subject when I asked about specific accounts, or how she'd started taking calls in whispered tones. I could help, I offered, reaching for my wine glass. I did major in finance after all. Livia's head snapped up. No need. I've got it under control. Let her handle it, Sophia, Mom interjected. You're busy enough with your own work. I was about to argue when my phone buzzed again. Danny's name flashed across the screen, but this time it wasn't a message meant for me. Wrong move sending those projections from your work email. Use the secure server next time. S doesn't suspect anything yet. My blood ran cold. The message was clearly meant for someone else. But who was S? Me. Excuse me, I muttered, standing up abruptly. I need some air. I headed toward Dad's study, my mind racing. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear Livia's voice inside. When had she left the table? Everything's set for next week, she whispered. Danny's got the offshore accounts ready. They'll never trace it back to us. I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding. No, I'm telling you, it's perfect timing, she continued. With the new software implementation, we can make it look like a system error. By the time anyone figures it out, we'll be long gone with the money. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Danny and Livia, working together, to steal from my family. Is everything okay? Mom's voice behind me made me jump. Fine, I said quickly, too quickly. Just needed to make a call. Back at the table, I couldn't stop my hands from shaking. Across from me, Livia had returned, cool as ever, typing away on her laptop. My phone buzzed one more time. Sorry about tonight, babe. Make it up to you next week. Dinner at that Italian place you love? I stared at Danny's message, seeing it for what it really was. Another lie in what was probably a long string of them. But this time, I wasn't going to be the naive girlfriend. This time, I needed help from someone who knew Danny better than anyone. I pulled up another contact, Trevor, Danny's estranged older brother. We'd only met a handful of times, and Danny always changed the subject when I asked about him. Now I knew why. Need to talk. It's about Danny. Important. His response came almost immediately. Finally figured it out, did you? Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Riverside Coffee. I looked up to find Livia watching me, her expression unreadable. I forced myself to smile, raising my wine glass in a mock toast. Let them think I was still the same trusting Sophia. Let them think I was blind to their schemes. But tomorrow, everything would change. Because if there's one thing my family taught me, it's that loyalty matters, and betrayal comes with a price. More wine, anyone? I asked, standing to grab another bottle. Inside, I was already planning my next move. Danny and Livia had no idea what was coming. Riverside Coffee was packed with the usual Saturday morning crowd, but I spotted Trevor immediately. He sat in a corner booth, looking exactly like Danny, but somehow completely different. same dark hair and sharp features, but his eyes held a weight his younger brothers never did. "You look like hell," he said as I slid into the seat across from him. "Thanks. You look exactly how I remember." I wrapped my hands around the coffee he'd already ordered for me. "Black? 2 sugars?" "Danny mentioned it once." Trevor's mouth twisted into a wry smile. "Back when we still talked?" "About that." I leaned forward. "What happened between you two?" "Same thing that's happening to you now." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through files. "Danny has a pattern. Find someone successful, gain their trust, then bleed them dry." My stomach lurched. "He did this to you?" "To my company. 3 years ago, he convinced me to make him CFO of my tech startup. Within 6 months, he'd siphoned off nearly $2 million through a series of fake vendors." Trevor's voice remained steady, but his knuckles whitened around his coffee cup. "By the time I caught on, the damage was done." "Why didn't you press charges?" "Our parents." He laughed without humor. "They believed his lies about me mismanaging the company. Said I was jealous of his success. Haven't spoken to any of them since." I pulled out my phone, showing him the message I'd intercepted. "He's working with my cousin Livia now. They're planning something for next week." Trevor read the message, his expression darkening. "Board meeting, right? When is it?" "Thursday. They've implemented new accounting software recently. Livia said something about making it look like a system error." "Classic Danny." Trevor started typing on his phone. "He did the same thing to me. Created a ghost server that—" The cafe's door chimed. I glanced up and froze. Livia had just walked in. "Don't turn around," I whispered to Trevor. "My cousin just came in." He kept his eyes on his phone. "Take my number. We need to move fast if we're going to stop them." I quickly added his contact information as Livia ordered at the counter. My phone buzzed with a text from Danny. "Miss you. Lunch today?" "Keep playing along," Trevor advised, watching me read the message. "Let them think everything's normal. Meanwhile, I'll have my IT guy look into the new software implementation." "Why are you helping me?" I asked suddenly. "You don't owe me anything." Trevor's eyes met mine, and something shifted in the air between us. Maybe I'm tired of watching my brother destroy people's lives. Or maybe— He paused as Livia walked past our booth, apparently without noticing me. "Maybe I want to make up for not stopping him sooner." "I need proof," I said once Livia had left. "Something concrete to show my family." "We'll get it. But Sophia?" His hand caught mine across the table. "Be careful. Danny's charming, but he's dangerous when cornered. I learned that the hard way." "How did you not see it coming?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "Same reason you didn't. He's family. You never expect family to betray you." Trevor's phone buzzed. "That's my IT guy. He can meet us tonight to look at the software specs. You in?" I thought about my family's business, built over 3 generations. About my dad's pride when he talked about its legacy. About Danny's lies and Livia's secret calls. "I'm in. But first," I pulled up Danny's text. "I have a lunch date to keep." "Sophia." Trevor's voice stopped me as I stood to leave. "Whatever happens, don't let him know you suspect anything. Danny's most dangerous when he feels trapped." I nodded, then hesitated. "Trevor? Thank you for believing me." "Ha, thank me when we take him down." His smile was grim but determined. "And Sophia? Be careful with those feelings I see in your eyes. Getting involved with another Gardner brother might not be the wisest move right now." I felt my cheeks flush. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't." He stood, throwing some bills on the table. "Meet me at the tech hub at 8 p.m. And remember, act normal with Danny." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed again. "Danny. Can't wait to see you, babe. Got something special planned." I took a deep breath and typed back, "Can't wait." The game was on, and this time, I wasn't playing by Danny's rules. Lunch with Danny felt like an acting performance. Every laugh, every touch, every kiss, all carefully calculated while my skin crawled beneath his hands. "You seem distracted," he said, reaching across the table to touch my cheek. "Everything okay at the office?" Just stressed about the board meeting. I watched his reaction carefully. Livia's been working so hard on those reports. Ah, yes. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. She mentioned she's been putting in extra hours. I bet she has, I thought, but said, maybe you could help her? With your financial expertise? Better not. He sipped his wine. Wouldn't want anyone claiming nepotism, right? The rest of lunch passed in a blur of small talk and lies. By the time evening rolled around, I was exhausted from maintaining the charade. The tech hub was housed in an old warehouse, converted into a modern office space. Trevor's IT specialist, Wyatt, looked more like a surfer than a tech genius, but his eyes sparked with intelligence as he examined the software specifications I'd managed to download from Livia's laptop during a coffee spill incident. "Oh, this is good," Wyatt whistled, fingers flying across his keyboard. "They've created a shadow system within the main accounting software. Every transaction gets mirrored to an offshore account, but the original books show normal operations." Trevor leaned over Wyatt's shoulder. "Can you trace the destination?" "Working on it, but—" Wyatt's screen filled with code. "They're routing it through multiple shells. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore." "How much?" I asked, dreading the answer. Wyatt's fingers paused. "Based on these patterns, close to 5 million so far." The room spun. I grabbed the edge of the desk to steady myself. "That's not all," Wyatt continued. "There's a massive transfer scheduled for next Thursday, right after your board meeting." "How massive?" Trevor's voice was tight. 20 million. "That would bankrupt us," I whispered. "The company wouldn't survive." Trevor's hand found my shoulder. "We won't let that happen." "Got something!" Wyatt exclaimed. "Look at this email chain. It's encrypted, but—" His fingers flew across the keyboard. "There, between Danny and Livia." The decoded messages appeared on screen. My heart stopped as I read. "Board meeting confirmed for Thursday. S's father still suspects nothing. Once the transfer clears, we'll be untraceable." "What about S? She's getting suspicious." "Don't worry about her. I've got her wrapped around my finger. Besides, by the time she figures it out, we'll be long gone. Together." Together. The word burned in my brain. "I think I'm going to be sick," I muttered. "There's more," Wyatt said quietly. "They've been planning this for over a year. Look at the date these accounts were set up. It was 2 weeks after Danny and I had started dating." "Son of a bitch," Trevor growled. "He targeted you specifically, used you to get close to the company." My phone buzzed. Danny again. "Missing you already? Dinner tomorrow?" "We need to move faster," I said, showing them the message. "The board meeting's in 5 days." "We need concrete proof," Trevor replied. "Something that can't be explained away." Wyatt raised his hand. "I might have an idea, but it's risky." "I'm listening." "We set up a honeypot. Make them think they've found an even bigger score. When they try to access it—" "We catch them in the act," Trevor finished. "Exactly. But we'd need someone on the inside. Someone they trust completely." They both looked at me. "No," Trevor said immediately. "It's too dangerous." "It's our best shot," I argued. "They already trust me, and I can get access to everything through Livia." "Sophia, I can do this, Trevor." I met his concerned gaze. "I have to." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Livia. "Hey, cuz, need your help with something tomorrow. Early morning coffee?" "Perfect timing." I showed them the message. "Looks like my chance is coming sooner than we thought." "Be careful." Trevor's hand lingered on mine. "If they suspect anything, they won't." I squared my shoulders. I learned from the best, right? Time to beat them at their own game. As I left the tech hub that night, another message from Danny lit up my phone. "Sweet dreams, beautiful. Can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." I typed back, "Me too, babe. Forever." The lies came easier now. Maybe because I finally understood. Sometimes you have to embrace the darkness to bring light to the truth. Tomorrow, Operation Honeypot would begin, and Danny and Livia would never see it coming. Early morning coffee with Livia turned out to be exactly the opening we needed. She arrived at the cafe looking stressed, her usually perfect hair slightly disheveled. "I need a huge favor," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "The new software's giving me hell with the board presentation." "Whatever you need," I replied, channeling all my sincerity into those 3 words. "Could you help me review the numbers? There's so much data to sort through, and with the meeting just days away." "Of course." I took a sip of my latte to hide my smile. "We can start today if you want." The next few hours were a masterclass in deception, from both of us. While Livia thought she was cleverly limiting my access to certain files, I was secretly copying everything to the encrypted drive Wyatt had given me. My phone buzzed periodically with updates from Trevor, who was monitoring the data transfer remotely. Each message made my heart race, but not entirely from fear. "Got another batch of evidence. You're doing great. Stay safe." Around noon, Danny showed up unexpectedly at the office. My stomach clenched as he wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Surprise, beautiful." His lips brushed my ear. "Thought I'd take my 2 favorite women to lunch." I felt Livia tense slightly before her face broke into a bright smile. "Perfect timing. I'm starving." Over lunch, I watched their subtle interactions with new eyes, the way they avoided direct eye contact, how their hands never quite reached for the shared breadbasket at the same time. They were good, but not good enough. "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I've been thinking about something." They both looked at me, and I forced myself to appear nervous, vulnerable. "Dad mentioned setting up a trust fund for me. Something about early inheritance tax benefits." I watched their expressions carefully. "It's quite substantial." Danny's eyes lit up for a fraction of a second before he controlled his expression. "That's wonderful, babe. When does it come through?" "Next week, right after the board meeting." I looked down at my plate. "I was hoping you could help me manage it, Danny. You're so good with money." "Of course." He reached for my hand, squeezing it. "Anything for you." Later that evening, I met Trevor at his apartment to review our progress. Wyatt had set up a command center of sorts in Trevor's home office, monitors displaying various data streams and security feeds. "They took the bait," I said, collapsing onto Trevor's couch. "Hook, line, and sinker." "You're incredible." Trevor handed me a glass of wine. "But watching you with him today." "Jealous?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. Trevor's eyes met mine, intense and unguarded. "Yes." The air between us crackled with tension. He moved closer, his hand brushing my cheek. "This is probably a terrible idea," I whispered. "Definitely," he agreed, but didn't move away. "We should focus on the plan." "Absolutely." Neither of us moved. "Trevor, His lips met mine, soft at first, then with increasing urgency. For a moment, I forgot about Danny, about Livia, about everything except the feel of Trevor's arms around me. Then my phone buzzed. Danny's name on the screen brought reality crashing back. "We can't." I pulled away reluctantly. "Not yet. Not until this is over." Trevor nodded, running a hand through his hair. "You're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "Don't apologize." I touched his cheek. "Just rain check?" He smiled, but his eyes were serious. "Be careful tomorrow. The closer we get to exposing them, the more dangerous they become." "I know." I checked Danny's message. "Miss you. Sweet dreams. Beautiful." "The fake trust fund documents are ready," Wyatt called from the office. "They'll stand up to basic scrutiny, but anyone digging deep will see they're bogus." "Perfect." I stood up, straightening my clothes. "That's exactly what we need." Sophia?" Trevor caught my hand as I headed for the door. "What happened tonight?" "Was exactly what I needed to stay strong," I finished for him. "But right now, I need to focus on taking down your brother." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Tomorrow then. Same time?" "Same time." I squeezed his hand before leaving. "And Trevor, that rain check? I plan to cash it in." As I drove home, my phone lit up one last time. Livia. Thanks for your help today, cuz. Danny's right. You're the best thing that ever happened to us. I smiled grimly at the road ahead. They had no idea just how right they were. The fake trust fund documents sat innocently on Livia's desk as I pretended to review more financial reports. It took exactly 6 minutes for her to take the bait. "Oh my God," she breathed, picking up the papers. "Sophia, is this real? Dad just gave them to me yesterday." I feigned embarrassment. "I haven't even told Danny yet." Her fingers trembled slightly as she read the numbers. $30 million, all conveniently scheduled to be transferred the day after the board meeting. "You should tell Danny right away," she said, trying to keep her voice casual. "He'd want to know about this. I was thinking of surprising him." I bit my lip. "Maybe you could help me set up the accounts, since you're so good with the new software." "Of course!" She grabbed her phone. "Let me just make a quick call." I pretended to focus on my computer screen while straining to hear her whispered conversation in the hallway. Through my earpiece, Wyatt confirmed he was recording everything. It's even bigger than we thought," she hissed into her phone. 30 million? Yes, I'm sure. No, she suspects nothing. Tomorrow night? Okay. Yes, I'll handle the transfers myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. "Got it all. They're planning something for tomorrow night. Be careful." Danny showed up at the office an hour later, practically glowing with fake charm. "Ladies," he announced, holding up a bottle of champagne. "I think we need to celebrate." "Celebrate what?" I asked innocently. "Just life." He winked at me. "And love, and new beginnings." Livia excused herself, leaving us alone in the office. Danny pulled me close, his kiss more possessive than usual. "You know I love you, right?" he murmured against my hair. "Everything I do, it's all for our future." I fought back the urge to push him away. "I love you too." "Then trust me." His eyes bore into mine. "No matter what happens in the next few days, trust that it's all for us." The intensity of his gaze sent chills down my spine. For the first time, I glimpsed the predator beneath the charm. Later that evening, I met Trevor and Wyatt at our usual spot. The tech hub was quiet, most workers gone for the day. "They're accelerating their timeline," Wyatt announced, showing us surveillance footage of Livia entering the office at midnight the previous night. "She's been setting up new transfer protocols. Tomorrow night," Trevor confirmed. "They're planning to take everything, your family's money and the trust fund they think exists. We need to stop them before—" I broke off as my phone lit up with a text from Livia. "Hey cuz, noticed you left your laptop at the office. Don't worry, I'll keep it safe. See you tomorrow." "Shit," I jumped up. "My real files are on that laptop." "It's okay," Wyatt assured me. "Everything's encrypted. They won't be able to—" "Wait." Trevor held up his hand. "This might work in our favor. Let them think they've found something." "But if they break the encryption—" "They won't," Wyatt grinned. "But they'll try. And when they do, we'll have proof of attempted corporate espionage," Trevor finished. My phone buzzed again. Danny this time. "Can't stop thinking about you. Dinner at my place tomorrow night?" "Perfect timing," Trevor said, reading over my shoulder. "Keep them separated. I'll handle Livia while you keep Danny distracted." "No." I stood up, pacing. "It's too risky. If anything happens to you—" "Nothing will happen." Trevor caught my shoulders, stopping my nervous movement. "Trust me." "That's what Danny just said." I met his eyes. "But I only trust one Gardner brother." The tension from the previous night returned, electric and undeniable. Trevor's hands slid down my arms. Guys." Wyatt cleared his throat. "Not to interrupt, but we've got movement. Livia's accessing the laptop now." We sprang apart, focusing on the monitors. Lines of code scrolled across the screen as Livia attempted to breach the encryption. "Got her," Wyatt whispered triumphantly. "Every attempt is being recorded and traced." My phone lit up one final time. A message from my mother. "Darling, don't forget family dinner tomorrow night. No excuses this time. I stared at the message, a plan forming. Actually, I said slowly, I think it's time we moved this out of the shadows. Tomorrow night, we end this. At family dinner. Trevor raised an eyebrow. You want to expose them in front of everyone? What better way to ensure they can't talk their way out of it? I smiled grimly. Besides, my mother always said sunshine is the best disinfectant. It's risky, Trevor warned. So is falling for my ex-boyfriend's brother, I countered. But here we are. His answering smile was both tender and dangerous. Here we are indeed. Tomorrow, everything would change. One way or another, the truth would finally see the light of day. The day of the family dinner, everything moved at lightning speed. Wyatt had set up hidden cameras throughout our dining room, while I kept my mother distracted with questions about table settings. Darling, since when do you care about proper placement of dessert forks? Mom asked, eyeing me suspiciously. Just trying to be more involved, I smiled, adjusting a napkin, while Wyatt finished concealing the last microphone. Is Danny still coming? Of course. And Livia's bringing that new laptop of hers. Says she has some exciting business presentations to share. I bet she does, I thought. Trevor and I met one last time at the tech hub before dinner. Wyatt had transformed the space into a command center, multiple screens displaying various camera feeds from my house. Everything's in place, he announced. The moment they try to initiate any transfers, we'll have them. Remember, Trevor gripped my shoulders. Let them make the first move. We need concrete proof. I know. I straightened his tie. He'd be arriving as my surprise guest. Just stay close to me? His hand cupped my cheek. Always. The doorbell rang at exactly 7. Danny arrived first, carrying wine and wearing his most charming smile. Mrs. Gardner. He kissed my mother's cheek. You look lovely as ever. Mom beamed. Such a gentleman. Sophia, why don't you help Danny with the wine? In the kitchen, Danny pressed me against the counter, his lips finding mine. It took everything I had not to push him away. Tonight's going to be special, he whispered. I have a surprise for you. Can't wait, I managed to say. Livia arrived next, laptop bag clutched tightly to her chest. Sorry I'm late. Had to finish some last-minute preparations. For the board meeting tomorrow? Dad asked. Something like that, she smiled, setting up her computer at the dining table. The doorbell rang again. Showtime. I hope you don't mind, I announced, walking to the door, but I invited someone else. Trevor stepped into the room. Danny's wine glass froze halfway to his lips. What is he doing here? Danny's voice was deadly quiet. Trevor? Mom looked confused. I didn't know you two were… We've been seeing each other, I said clearly, watching Danny's face. Professionally. He's been helping me understand some financial matters. The color drained from Livia's face. Her fingers twitched toward her laptop. Brother, Danny's smile was razor sharp. What a surprise. Danny, Trevor nodded coolly. Livia, interesting software you're running there. Livia slammed her laptop shut. Just work stuff, nothing interesting. Really? I moved to stand beside Trevor. Not even the offshore accounts? Or the transfer protocols set for tonight? The room went deadly silent. Sophia. Danny's voice was soft, dangerous. What are you talking about? Show them, I nodded to Trevor. He pulled out his phone, projecting screenshots onto the dining room wall. Bank statements, transfer records, encrypted emails between Danny and Livia. What is this? Dad stood up, staring at the numbers. Your daughter and my brother are confused, Danny started, but Trevor cut him off. 5 million already stolen, 20 million more scheduled for tomorrow, plus the 30 million they thought they were getting from Sophia's trust fund. Trust fund? Mom looked bewildered. What trust fund? The fake one we created to trap them, I explained. They took the bait, just like they took everything else. Livia lunged for her laptop, but Wyatt emerged from the kitchen, holding up a hard drive. Looking for this? Already copied everything, including your midnight activities from yesterday. You don't understand. Danny reached for me, but Trevor stepped between us. Baby, everything I did was for us. Save it. I held up my phone, playing the recording of his conversation with Livia. We have everything. James, Mom whispered to Dad. Call the police. Huh, no need. Trevor smiled grimly. They're already here? On cue, officers stepped in from the garden and front door. I watched as realization dawned on Danny's face. He'd been outplayed at his own game. You set me up, he snarled at me. After everything. After everything you did to me? I stepped closer, finally letting my anger show. You never loved me. I was just your ticket to my family's money. And you. He turned to Trevor. My own brother. You stopped being my brother the day you stole from me, Trevor replied calmly. Consider this karma. As the police led Danny and Livia away, Mom collapsed into a chair. All this time, she whispered. Right under our noses. I'm sorry, Mom. I knelt beside her. I had to be sure before I said anything. Dad placed a hand on my shoulder. You did good, sweetheart. Both of you. He nodded to Trevor. Monsieur, speaking of which, Mom's eyes narrowed at our joined hands. Is there something else you want to tell us? I looked at Trevor, seeing my future in his eyes. Actually, I smiled, there is. The night wasn't over yet, but the hardest part was done. Now came the fun part, explaining to my parents why I was falling for my ex-boyfriend's brother. But that, at least, was a story worth telling. The police station buzzed with activity as Danny and Livia were processed. I sat in the detective's office, watching through the window as they were photographed and fingerprinted. Miss, Detective Martinez leaned forward. Can you walk us through the timeline one more time? Trevor squeezed my hand under the table as I recounted everything. The intercepted messages, the fake trust fund, the recordings. Wyatt had provided all the technical evidence, laying out the digital trail of breadcrumbs that led straight to Danny and Livia. The total amount they attempted to steal, Martinez consulted his notes, comes to $55 million? That we know of, Trevor added. There might be more we haven't uncovered yet. Danny's lawyer arrived, all expensive suit and rehearsed confidence. Through the glass, I watched Danny lean in, whispering frantically. He's trying to cut a deal, Martinez explained, following my gaze. Offering to testify against Livia in exchange for leniency. Of course he is. Trevor's voice was bitter. He did the same thing when he stole from me. The door opened, and my parents walked in with our family lawyer. Mom's eyes were red but determined. We want to press full charges, Dad announced. No deals. Dad! I started, but he held up his hand. No, Sophia. They betrayed this family, both of them. He turned to Martinez. We have evidence of similar schemes at 3 other companies. Pattern of behavior. Danny's head snapped up at that, eyes widening as he saw my father through the glass. The confident mask slipped, revealing raw panic underneath. Let me talk to him, I said suddenly. Absolutely not, Trevor and Mom said simultaneously. I need to. I stood up. I need to know why. Martinez nodded to the officer, and moments later, I sat across from Danny in the interrogation room. He looked smaller somehow, without his designer suit and practiced charm. Come to gloat? He asked quietly. No, I came to understand. I leaned forward. Was any of it real? Does it matter now? It matters to me. Danny ran his hands through his disheveled hair. You weren't supposed to be so smart, so good. It would have been easier if you were stupid. Like the others. The others were marks. His eyes met mine. You complicated things. By falling in love with you? By making me almost want to change. He laughed hollowly. But old habits, right? Trevor warned me about you. Trevor! Danny spat the name. My perfect older brother, always doing the right thing. And now, he gets you too. He didn't get me, I corrected. He earned my trust, something you never understood. A commotion erupted outside. Through the window, I saw Livia being led to another room, screaming. It was all his idea. He planned everything. I just did what he told me to. Danny's face hardened. Looks like Cousin Livia's singing already. Was she really worth it? I asked. Betraying everyone for her? She was convenient. He shrugged. Like you were supposed to be. I stood up, finally seeing him clearly. You know what's sad? You had everything. Family, love, opportunities. And you threw it all away for money. Says the girl born with a silver spoon. No, Trevor's voice came from the doorway. Says the girl who just saved her family's legacy from a con man. Danny lunged forward, but the officers were faster. As they restrained him, he shouted, You think you've won? You think this is over? It was over the moment you underestimated her, Trevor replied calmly, taking my hand. Outside the interrogation room, Martinez confirmed they had everything they needed. With the evidence you provided and their conflicting testimonies, we're looking at significant prison time for both of them. Mom pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm so sorry I ever pushed you toward him. It's okay, Mom, I hugged her back. We all got fooled. Not all of us. Dad looked at Trevor appreciatively. Thank you for helping expose this. Sir, Trevor straightened. About my relationship with Sophia. Save it for dinner tomorrow, Mom interrupted, a slight smile playing on her lips. I think we've had enough drama for one day. As we left the station, I heard Danny's voice one last time. Sophia, this isn't over! But it was. The security footage, the financial records, the encrypted emails, everything pointed to years of calculated fraud. Danny and Livia weren't just facing charges from us, but from every company they'd scammed. Ready to go home? Trevor asked softly. I looked back at the station one last time, then at the man beside me, the one who'd helped me uncover the truth and find justice. Yes, I smiled, taking his hand. I'm ready. Behind us, the sun was setting on one chapter of my life. But ahead, that story was just beginning. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters as the verdict was read. Danny and Livia had been sentenced to 15 years each, with no possibility of early parole. As the journalists shouted questions, Trevor guided me through the crowd to where my parents waited. It's really over. Mom squeezed my hand. How do you feel? Lighter, I replied, watching Danny being led away in handcuffs. He caught my eye one last time, but the sight no longer filled me with dread or anger, just pity. The company's quarterly reports came in, Dad announced as we walked to the car. We've already recovered most of the stolen funds, and the new security protocols are working perfectly. Speaking of the company, I straightened my shoulders. I've been thinking about taking a more active role. Dad stopped walking. You mean, if you'll have me, I smiled. Someone needs to keep an eye on those accounts. We'd love that. Mom wiped away a tear. But what about your plans with Trevor? Trevor wrapped an arm around my waist. Actually, we have an announcement. If it's about the wedding, we already know, Dad chuckled. Trevor asked for my blessing last week. Not just the wedding. I held up a business proposal. Trevor's tech company is developing new security software. We thought maybe a merger would be beneficial for both families. Mom grabbed the proposal, scanning it quickly. This is brilliant! A perfect blend of both companies' strengths. And a fresh start for the Gardner name, Trevor added. Something good to replace what Danny tainted. Back at the house, Wyatt was waiting with champagne and news. The last of the hidden accounts has been traced, he announced. Every penny is being returned to the victims. To justice, Dad raised his glass. And family, Mom added, giving Trevor a warm smile. Speaking of family, I cleared my throat. There's one more thing. I handed Mom an envelope. Inside were adoption papers. Trevor was officially taking in his teenage cousin, whose parents had abandoned her just like Danny had abandoned his responsibilities. Sarah needs a home, Trevor explained, and we have plenty of room in our hearts. Mom's eyes welled up again. When does she arrive? Tomorrow, I smiled. We thought maybe her new grandmother could help decorate her room. The joy on Mom's face was worth everything we'd been through. Later that evening, Trevor and I stood in our garden, watching the sunset. The engagement ring caught the fading light, sparkling like our future. "Having second thoughts?" he asked softly. "About any of it? About marrying you?" "Never." I turned to face him. "About running a company, raising a teenager, and merging two family legacies? Maybe a little terrified." "Good thing you're not doing it alone." He pulled me closer. "We make a pretty good team. Better than Danny and Livia, at least," I joked. "Speaking of which," Trevor's expression turned serious, "Sarah asked about him, about why her cousin's in prison. What did you tell her?" "The truth. That sometimes people make bad choices, but that doesn't mean we stop giving others a chance at love and trust." From inside, we heard laughter. Mom and Dad reviewing Sarah's room designs with Wyatt, who'd somehow become part of our extended family, too. "You know what Danny never understood?" I watched my family through the window. "That real wealth isn't in bank accounts. It's in moments like this." "Getting philosophical on me?" Trevor teased. "No, getting honest." I faced him again. "I thought I lost everything when I discovered Danny's betrayal. Instead, I found everything I never knew I needed." The porch light flickered on, and Mom called us in for dinner. Another family tradition, but now with new meanings and members. "Ready to build our own legacy?" Trevor held out his hand. I took it, feeling the strength of his grip and the promise in his touch. "As long as it includes regular family dinners and absolutely no secret offshore accounts." "Deal." He kissed me softly. "Though I do have one secret." "Oh?" "I've loved you since that first coffee shop meeting. Even when we were plotting revenge, all I could think was, please don't let her be like him." "And?" "And you weren't. You were so much more." Mom called again, more insistently this time. "We should go in," I laughed, "before she sends a search party. Lead the way, future Mrs. Gardner." "That's future CEO Mrs. Gardner to you." His laughter followed me inside, where our family waited. Not the family I was born into, or the one I almost married into, but the one I chose, the one that chose me back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving justice, it's finding happiness despite those who tried to steal it from you. And that's exactly what we did.